الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجه. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يسبح لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض. يسبح لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض الملك القدوس العزيز الحكيم. هو الذي بعث في أمين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة وإن كانوا من قبل لفي ضلال مبين. وآخرين منهم لما يلحقوا بهم وهو العزيز الحكيم. ذلك فضل الله يؤتيه من يشاء. ذلك فضل الله يؤتيه من يشاء والله ذو الفضل العظيم. مثل الذين حملوا التوراة ثم لم يحملوها كمثل الحمار يحمل أسفارا. بئس مثل القوم الذين كذبوا بآيات الله والله لا يهدي القوم الظالمين. مثل القوم الذين كذبوا بآيات الله والله لا يهدي القوم الظالمين. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. Tonight, inshallah, we are starting the majlis in this Shab Jum'ah Yawm al-Thursday, the eve of Friday, with the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and name of our Imam Zamanana Jalallah ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. 16 days of Ramadan has passed us, and inshallah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you tawfiq to do your best with du'as, and in this month that you are actually be a guest of Allah, and all of your prayers and ibadat is inshallah accepted. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala به حرمت این شب جمعه this Thursday night شب زیارتی آقای امام حسین شب زیارتی بانو فاطمه زهرا keep our community and all the communities of the world, all the Muslims, all the Shias and non-Shias, inshallah, safe from this coronavirus and from this disease. And inshallah, our youth have been following the path, and they get the ajr and sawab to do their ruza, and they do their namaz and ayat, and inshallah read Quran Kareem as much as possible in this month. And Allah gives you tawfiq for ibadat. And we start the majlis and give it as a gift to Imam Zaman, and inshallah Agha Imam Zaman has us in mind and keep us in his prayer, inshallah ta'ala. Sadaqallahu al-aliyyil azim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Now I will ask another young Quran reciter today to start reciting Quran is Az-Zahra. Please, you can start when you're ready.
Assalamu alaikum. I will be reciting Surah Rahman. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. الرحمن علم القرآن خلق الإنسان علمه البيان الشمس والقمر بحسبان والنجم والشجر يسجدان والسماء رفعها ووضع الميزان ألا تطغوا في الميزان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان خلق الإنسان من صلصال كالفخار وخلق الجن من مارج من نار فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان رب المشرقين ورب المغربين فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان مرج البحرين يلتقيان بينهما برزخ لا يبغيان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان يخرج منهما اللؤلؤ والمرجان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان وله الجوار المنشآت في البحر كالأعلام فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان كل من عليها فان ويبقى وجه ربك ذو الجلال والإكرام فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان يسأله من في السماوات والأرض كل يوم هو في شأن فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان سنفرغ لكم أيها الثقلان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان يا معشر الجن والإنس إن استطعتم أن تنفذوا من أقطار السماوات والأرض فانفذوا لا تنفذون إلا بسلطان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان يرسل عليكما شواظ من نار ونحاس فلا تنتصران فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فإذا انشقت السماء فكانت وردة كالدهان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فيومئذ لا يسأل عن ذنبه إنس ولا جان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان يعرف المجرمون بسيماهم فيؤخذ بالنواصي والأقدام فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان هذه جهنم التي يكذب هذه جهنم التي يكذب بها المجرمون يطوفون بينها وبين حميم آن فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان ولمن خاف مقام ربه جنتان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان ذواتا أفنان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فيهما عينان تجريان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فيهما من كل فاكهة زوجان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان متكئين على فرش بطائنها من استبرق وجنى الجنتين دان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فيهن خاصرات الطرف لم يطمثهن إنس قبلهم ولا جان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان كأنهن الياقوت والمرجان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان هل جزاء الإحسان إلا الإحسان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان ومن دونهما جنتان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان مدهامتان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فيهما عينان نضاختان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فيهما فاكهة ونخل ورمان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فيهن فيهن خيرات حسان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان حور مقصورات في الخيام فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان لم يطمثهن إنس قبلهم ولا جان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان متكئين على رفرف خضر وعبقري حسان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان تبارك اسم ربك ذي الجلال والإكرام صدق الله العلي العظيم.
MashaAllah. Ameen.
Jazakallah.
Good job. Salawat for Ameen today doing a beautiful job for reciting Surah Rahman. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So I will ask Sheikh Said Kulayni to take over and start with question answer sessions. So today it'll be easy to ask questions since most people are home and it'll be easy to ask questions. Yesterday, most of the people in the center and may not have fast access to laptop to ask questions. So hopefully we have at least few questions today, inshallah. But if you want to, you can, I don't know, here can they, email you or send questions in advance somehow, so you can answer them here, or just want to do live?
No, we could do the questions live if you like.
Okay.
Oh, Allah.
So inshallah, mic to you now, Sheikh.
Assalamu alaikum. Maybe I can ask a couple of them.
How are you?
Alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum. So, Sheikh, the two questions that I have, the first one concerns people that are alive, and the second is for people who have passed away. So the question is the common one for both, is how to make up for missed fasts.
How to make up
for the missed fasts for people who are alive and for people who are dead.
Okay, well, the people that are alive that can miss fast, they could do it themselves. That's no problem. But the ones who are passed on, it's up to the oldest male child to actually make up those, either make them up for him, for their parents, or hire somebody to make up the fast for them, inshallah.
So would this would it just be sufficient to give like a fidya for their fast, or somebody has to actually physically fast on their behalf?
Well, the thing is that the fast has to be made up. You know, we never if we missing fast, we're never really how can I say it, exempt from the missed fast. You know, we never from missed fast. We have to somehow have those fasts made up. Whether, like I said, whether, you know, we actually do it, the oldest son does it for the parents, or he pays somebody to do the fast or the prayers, whatever it is, but it has to be made up. These prayers has to be made up somehow or some way.
Okay. And there's for the people that are alive, would there be a kafara if they had legitimate reasons not to fast, but then they did not fast in that before the year was over, before the next Ramadan?
Now the thing is, if they missed, now for instance, if a person missed some days in the month of Ramadan, he has to make them up before the next one. If he or she does not make it up, then he have to make up the fast and pay a kafara also along with it. Pay a amount of money along with it for not making up for that year, for the year has passed.
Okay. Well, Jazakallah Shaykh. Thank you.
I have a question.
Sure.
Okay. So did Prophet Muhammad ﷺ or the Imams know the exact day of Laylatul Qadr, the night of Qadr?
You know, it's funny you said that, right? We find that their emphasis on one of the days. I read with Waya that even though it's recommended for us to do the Amal for all 3 days, it is actually emphasized that from Hadith in which I read that 21st holds a good how can I say, a high possibility of doing it. But the reason why they don't put emphasis on which day it is because we will only focus on that day and we will miss out on the blessings of doing all 3 of the days. But we do have a wire in which they do put focus that is high recommended that the 21st might be, inshallah. But we have to still do the amal for all 3 days because Allah knows best. Maybe, there's a lot of tawab in all 3.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Assalamu alaikum. So I guess I have no more questions. Okay. And with that, do y'all mind if I start, or do y'all want me to wait and see if other people would like to ask questions?
Sure, we can start, I think. If there are any questions, then maybe we can do it even after, or tomorrow. So
that'll be fine. That'll be fine. Okay, thank you. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام أشرف المرسلين وخاتم النبيين أحمد مجتبى أبي قاسم محمد مصطفى اللهم صل محمد وعلى محمد ولا طيبين الطاهرين المعصومين. قال الله تعالى في مقام كتاب عزيز بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وآمنوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. صلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Ramadan Mubarak. As we observe this fasting during the month of Ramadan, we should know that fasting plays a very important role in the Muslims' belief. What I mean by that is that in the beliefs of actions in our Furui Deen, we find that fasting is something that is incumbent upon us to do. Whether this is a mustahab fast that maybe we may observe on Mondays or Thursdays, a fast in which we did a niyaz, or oath, in which we have to observe, or a wajib fast like the month of Ramadan, or fasting as a kafara for something in which we have something which we have done and we have to reconcile. Because we see a lot of things in which Allah tells us to reconcile with, especially to do with not fasting. It say either free a slave, feed people, or fast. So we see that fasting plays a very important role in our belief and also the belief of our actions. But what is fasting? How do we see fasting? Are we fasting correctly? This is a question which we should ask ourselves. Is fasting, observing a fast, is just as staying away from food and drink? Because a lot of people, when we think of fasting, this is all they think about, that you restrain yourself from food and drink, and that's all. And if a person thinks this, then he or she is not correct. Fasting is more than just more than just staying away from food and drinking and going through some type of hunger pains. Fasting is way more than this. We find that in the riwayah of Fatima Az-Zahra, Samallahi alayha, she explains to us what is fasting, what things in which we should refrain from when we are fasting. Not just refraining from food and drink, but it is more that one should refrain from when he or she is fasting for the fast to be considered correct. One of the things in which our beloved Fatima, she said that when one is fasting, he or she should guard their tongue. To guard their tongue. We know that we should always guard our tongue, but we should learn to guard our tongue more so during this blessed month of Ramadan. And nothing is more beneficial for a human being than guarding the tongue. The tongue is very dangerous because we find that in this blessed month of Ramadan, that the less we speak, the better we are, that we be careful what we said. We don't just say anything. We observe the fast of the tongue to make sure that we are also observing the fast correctly. Imam Ali alayhi salam, he said that guarding the tongue is part of faith. To guard our tongue is a part of faith. We find that one of the things that gets us in trouble the most is our tongue. Because our tongue, sometimes we let our tongue roam the earth freely, in other words. We allow our tongue to say things where they should not be said. We do not refrain from words that are not so nice with our tongue. We say things that are hurtful to others with our tongue. We cut people very deeply with our tongue. and that we should guard our tongue, especially when we are fasting. Also when we are not fasting as well. But here it is, the Imam, he tells us that to guard one's tongue is part of faith, is a part of our faith. That means a person that is not guarding his tongue, do he not have faith? She not have faith? The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one time, when a person, he says that when a person wakes up in the morning, his body will plead to his tongue. Imagine that. You wake up in the morning, your body pleads to your tongue. Imagine what he says, your tongue says to your body. The tongue says to the body, fear Allah for us. See, a person that does not guard his or her tongue and it just says anything, do they fear Allah? As this hadith saying that, most likely they don't. But he's saying the tongue said to him, say, fear Allah for us as we depend on you, as we depend on the tongue. If you are steadfast, then we are steadfast. So if the tongue is steadfast, we are steadfast. And if you are crooked, the tongue, then we are crooked, the tongue. You see this? The tongue, if the tongue is steadfast, then you will be steadfast. Because when you monitor your tongue, you also will monitor your actions as well. We have to understand that no person is safe from sin until they guard their tongue. We find that a long time ago, I said two things that will lead a person to the hellfire. They said one is the tongue and the other is the private parts. These two things are dangerous because the tongue could cut deep. The tongue can affect. The tongue can do so much things. This is why we have so much emphasis that we must guard this. And Fatima Zahra Alayha, she explained that when we are fasting, we must guard our tongue, or one must guard their tongue. Watch what they are saying. Do not speak anything other than good. Other than good. But we are so loose with our tongue, unfortunately. Even during the month of Ramadan, we are loose with our tongue. And we're not guarding our tongue. And our fast is losing something because we are not observing this part of the fasting. No. One time, once Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam, he addressed some of his companions. One of his companions, excuse me. And he said, oh, Sama'a, what is this that took place between you and your camel driver? He said, what is this? What happened? What type of incident? It was some type of incident that happened between you and your camel driver. You know, what happened? What's this? So the Imam said to him, beware of being foul-tongued. Beware of being foul-tongued, boisterous, abusive, or cursing in your speech. Cursing your speech. But the thing in which the companion of the Imam, he said, by Allah, I was only defending myself. I was only defending myself as I was being wrong. The person was wronging me. To which the Imam, he replied to him, he said, even if he wronged you first, you should have not exceeded him. You should not exceed him. Right? No. That we must behave. We should be careful on how we behave. Even though someone says things wrong to us, we should not exceed that person and make that person feel even worse than what they made us feel. So the Imam, he goes on, he said, indeed, this is not behavior that you would see coming from me, nor is it something I would ever encourage my followers to do. Seek forgiveness from your Lord and never do it again. So they said the companion, he sought refuge and asked Allah for forgiveness, and he never did it again. He watched his tongue. He watched his tongue. The month of Ramadan is the time in which we can be so much focused on these type of things. And to be able to train ourselves, to be able to take this on throughout the year. And not only throughout the year, throughout our lifetime. To make our fast much more better and more complete. So we could get the most out of the fast, not just hunger pains, but the thawab in which Allah is sending down upon those who observe the fast correctly. MashaAllah. Another thing in which our beloved Fatima, Zahra, salama Allahi alayha, she said that when we are fasting, that we should observe, or what we should guard, is our hearing. Is our hearing. We should guard our hearing. We should be careful on what we hear, what we allow ourselves to hear. We find that even through the month of Ramadan, we love to hear the gossip and the backbiting and all the juicy things that make us feel like, woo, I want to hear more, I want to hear more. Even during the month of Ramadan. Our Imam has said, Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam, he said that when you fast, your hearing must fast. Your hearing must fast. Not only are we abstaining or staying away from food and drink, we are guarding our tongues, and we also are fasting with our ears. We're fasting with our ears. We're staying away from the negativity that will come inside of our ears. The waswas, the so-called sayings and all the backbiting, the gossip, or whatever it may be that comes our way, we stay away from that. And this is a training ground, not only for the fast to be better, but also for us to take it outside of the fast. Right? Of course. We must also fast with our hearing. This is also a part of our fast, also a part of fasting. Fasting is multidimensional. We put fasting as just one way of doing it. Just to stay away from food. But fasting is a complete thing. It's something that's going with your body and your soul, right? It's a complete thing. It's not just one-dimensional. It's multi-dimensional fasting. We always put it as one-dimensional. And this is where we are wrong at. We should not put fasting as a one-dimensional thing. Allah Azza Jalla, He teaches this. He teaches these things to teach us self-restraint. Not just to stay away from food, but self-restraint for what we actually say out our mouth and what we hear. We should know that our fasting days should not be like our normal days neither. It's no different when we look at a lot of us. Believe it or not, it's crazy. A lot of us, our fasting days are no different than our regular days. Whether we're still doing the same thing, the same sins as we do outside of the fasting month, or when we turn our days into nights and our nights into days, everything's about the same. And this is unfortunate. We're not learning no self-restraint. We're not taking advantage of this blessing in which Allah Azza has set down to us to teach us. You know, once a man came to Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam, and he was explaining to him, he said, you know, I have a neighbor who has a slave girl, and the slave girl, she sings and plays the flute. And sometimes when I go outside, I take my time so that I can listen to them. He said, so I can take some time so I can listen to them. So the Imam, he said to him, by Allah, you have not heard the verse of Allah, mighty and exalted, in the Quran, who said, verily the hearing and the sight and the heart, each of them of those shall be answerable for it. So you're trying to tell me we forgot about this? That this person, he heard the flute and the singing, so he stops and he wants to listen to what is being heard, what is being done. He's listening to the haram. He's not refraining from the haram. He's enjoying this. He's acting like Allah Azza Jalla will not ask him about these things. Like he's not going to be asked about what he have done, why he have listened to this. We see that the scholars, they tell us about the vain speech. And when the vain speech, he's talking about maybe the speech of people talking things that is not beneficial. But a lot of times when they talk about the vain speech in the riwayah, talking about the music and so on and so forth. Things that affect you when you hear it. And when you're fasting, you must not let things affect you in a way that will take you away from the remembrance of Allah. So we must guard our hearing. Another thing in which our beloved Fatima, Zahra, Samalahi alayha, she said in this riwayah that what we should do is guard our sight. Guard our sight. To guard what we see. We should know that the eyes are the gateway to the heart. That what we see with our eyes affects our heart. If we see something that is haram, it affects our heart. If we see something that is good and wholesome, it affects our heart, but in a good way. We see that sometimes people, they do not guard their sight. They look at every and anything. They do not lower their gazes. If anything, they look towards it to the point that they become so lustful in what they are doing. They bring forth the haram. They love it. They love to see it. They want to see it. Oh, it's very enticing that they want to get thrills out of seeing this. But as believers, male or female, we are told to lower our gazes. Right? To lower our gazes. To be conscious of what we see. to not look at things that are going to affect us in a wrong way or in a bad way. Right? Imam Ali alayhi salam, he said something about this. He said the blinding of sight is better than a lot of gazing at what is haram or what is forbidden. The blinding of sight is better than a lot of gazing of what is forbidden or what is haram. We have to work on not looking at things that is going to affect our hearts in a wrongful way or in a bad way. And for us to lower our gauges. Now, as we look towards what our beloved Fatima says, we see that the fast is now becoming more whole. Now, it's building upon what we have already known, that fasting is something we refrain from water and drink. Now, it's also we have to refrain and guard our tongues. Also, we have to guard our hearing. We also have to guard our sights. I remember a story. It said that it was a youth. This was a story a long time ago. A youth, he was walking and he saw a beautiful woman. And as he was walking, he saw the beautiful woman. He started to watch her as she go, as she passed. And as she passed, he looks and then he turns and he walks right into, says like glass or maybe like a rod or something. It was some type of thing, but it cut him. And they said that because of this, that the verse in which Allah Azza he tells man to lower their gazes came down. So that we have to watch out for what we see, to be conscientious of our sight and not allow ourselves to gaze at something that is haram, like wrongful looks. Right? But how many of a passion has been aroused by a single glance? How many people has been aroused by a single glance? How many passions has came about because of a single glance? A single haram glance, because we did not be conscious of what we are seeing and we allow that thing that which we see to affect our heart. And in turn, they brought our heart away from the good. It brought us towards that is which is forbidden. And then all of a sudden what happened? Our limbs went towards that forbidden act because we did not follow these things. This is what happens. This is what happens when one does not lower their gaze or be conscious of their sight. I remember, I might have said this before, that one time I was in the barbershop getting a haircut. It was a Muslim barbershop. And one of the barbers, he's cutting the hair, and a woman, Muslim woman, walked by. And he looks at her as she walks by. And I said to him, I said, Aki, yo, what are you doing? Why are you looking like this? He said, I have one look. I said, but the way you're looking at her, it has become lust. He did not guard his sight. He let his low desire overpower him. The fourth and last thing in which our beloved Fatima Az-Zahra said that for us to do is that we must also know that we must fast with our limbs. Let's fast with our limbs. Now, this is one thing we probably never really thought about that. Let's fast with our limbs. How do we fast with our limbs? We find that there's a lot of things in which we can do that is haram with our feet, with our hands. We can do something with our hands that is haram, like a haram touch. We could do something with our feet, like walk somewhere or go somewhere that is haram. We could do so much things with our limbs. We could be places in which we're not supposed to because our limbs brought us there. Right? Exactly. We must also know that there is a reason why we should fast with our limbs. Because Allah Azza, He plainly tells us that on a day of judgment or the day of questioning, that our limbs are going to bear witness to what we have done. That Allah Azza will put a seal upon our mouths and our hands and our feet will bear witness to what we have earned. That there will be a seal upon our mouth. We cannot speak out of our mouth, but our hands will speak and our feet will speak. They said that it will speak as though the same way as how our mouth will speak. These limbs will be spoke to, will speak. And they will bear witness about what we have done. Like say, if this hand would say, oh yes, this day, I remember like it was yesterday, I stole something. I did an unlawful touch. And our feet would say, yes, I remember the day that we walked into the place that was haram. I committed an act that is haram with these feet. Also with our limbs. We have to look at all of this as a whole. Fasting is more than what we always ascribe to be. For us to make sure that our fast is correct and done right, we must observe all of these things. Each and every one of these things. Or as Fatima said in the rest of this fast, she said, if we did not do this, during his fast, has his deeds, our fast, in other words, we have not fasted at all. She said that if we did not observe these things, or keeping our limbs away from forbidden acts, our sight, our tongue, our hearing, we have not fasted at all. That means all we have been doing is just staying away from food and being hungry. And this is the problem with a lot of us, because that's what all we have been doing. All we have been doing is just staying away from food and drink, and that's all. We have not completed all the obligations of fasting, as Fatima has said in this hadith. We have not gained the true benefits, the true thawab in fasting because of our lack of understanding, our ignorance of not knowing what true fasting is and what fasting isn't. None of us are masoom. We are working towards trying to be the best Muslims we could be and striving to be on a level of mu'min, a believer. But the only way we can reach these high levels is that we observe everything in which Allah has laid forth for us to do in its complete form. Not some of the way, not half of the way, but all the way. So we can get the full blessings, the full thawab, the full musliha, the full benefit out of these acts. Because Allah, He gets nothing out of us fasting. Fasting is for us. Fasting is something to teach us to be better people. It's not for Allah. Allah does not need our worship. He does not need our fast. He does not need our fast. But Allah has put this out for us to make us better. So we must observe the fast in its complete form and not half-step the fast. May Allah help us all. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wal as inna al-insana lafi khus illa alladhina amanu wa aminu salihati wa tawassaw bil haqqi wa tawassaw bis sabr wa ahwa dahwana walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wassalamu ala Muhammadin wa alihi tahirin. Allahumma salli ala.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Ajal Fajr. Thank you, Sheikh, for your time and insightful lecture about the two meanings of rosa, just not being abstaining from food and water, but going more detail like Hazrat Fatima has described it. Thank you. So we will inshallah continue with our program, and as announced earlier, we do dua iftitah. So I'll ask, and I have some announcements too, but I will make those announcements after dua iftitah, inshallah. So brother Mustafa, you can be ready whenever you're ready for dua iftitah.
Inshallah. Yep. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا علي يا عزيز يا غفور يا رحيم أنت الرب العظيم الذي ليس كمثله شيء وهو السميع البصير. وهذا شهر عزمته وكرمته وشرفته وفضلته على الشهور. وهو شهر الذي فرضت صيامه علي. وهو شهر رمضان الذي أنزلت فيه القرآن هدى للناس بينات من الهدى والفرقان. وجعلت فيه ليلة القدر وجعلتها خيرا من ألف شهر. فيا ذا المن ولا يمن عليك من علي بفكاك رقبتي من النار في من تمن علي وأدخلني الجنة برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Brothers and sisters, as we get closer and closer to iftar, these moments, these minutes before the iftar is a precious time that we can reflect, as the Shaykh said, on fasting and our ibadat. Tonight is a special night because it's the night of Thursday. We call it Shab Jum'ah. This is the night, the Shab Ziyarat Ya Imam Hussein. There is a tradition that they say Banu Fatima Az-Zahra. It goes for greeting of Zubar of Imam Hussein and for Ziyarat Imam Hussein alayhi salam to Karbala. And many people in Iraq, in Muslim countries, they go to and dedicate this dua, and this traditionally we read dua Kumayl and dedicate that to Imam Hussein and Hazrat Zahra alayhi salam. So I'd like to invite you, inshallah, to bring your hearts and tongues together and read this dua iftatah. This dua, it's very, very special dua. And inshallah, now that you have fasted all day and you haven't committed any sins with this tongue, as Shaykh was explaining, and kept your tongues and kept your fasting, inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts from us this qaleel, this dua, and we get to dedicate this to Mama Zamanana and to Banu Fatima Az-Zahra on this Thursday night. May they keep a nazar on us, on our family, on our community, our parents, and marhumeen. And inshallah, we benefit from this dua as we read it for the next 10-15 minutes. So keep us in your prayers. And inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also keeps our children protected and our families, and wherever they are, in whatever corner of the world, all the Shia are our brothers and sisters, and we make dua for them, inshallah, Allah accept from us. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahumma inni aftatahu as-sanaa bihamdik wa anta al-musaddidun lis-sawab bimannik. وأيقنت أنك أنت أرحم الراحمين في موضع العفو والرحمة، وأشد المعاقبين في موضع النكال والنقمة، وأعظم المتجبرين في موضع الكبرياء والعظمة. اللهم أذنت لي في دعائك ومسألتك، فاسمع يا سميع مدحتي، وأجب يا رحيم دعوتي، وأغل يا غفور أسرتي. فكم يا إلهي من كربة قد فرجتها، وهموم قد كشفتها، وأسرة قد أغلتها، ورحمة قد نشرتها، وحلقة بلاء قد فككتها. الحمد لله الذي لم يتخذ صاحبة ولا ولدا، ولم يكن له شريك في الملك، ولم يكن له ولي من الذل، وكبره تكبيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجه. الحمد لله بجميع محامده كلها، على جميع نعمه كلها. الحمد لله الذي لا مضاد له في ملكه، ولا منازع له في أمره. الحمد لله الذي لا شريك له في خلقه، ولا شبيه له في عظمته. الحمد لله فاشي في الخلق أمره وحمده، الظاهر بالكرم مجده، الباسط بالجود يده، الذي لا تنقص خزائنه، ولا يزيده كثرة العطاء إلا جودا وكرما. إنه هو العزيز الوهاب. اللهم إني أسألك قليلا من كثير مع حاجة بي إليه عظيمة، وغناك عنه قديم، وهو عندي كثير، وهو عليك سهل يسير. اللهم إن عفوك عن ذنبي، وتجاوزك عن خطيئتي، وصفحك عن ظلمي، وسترك على قبيح عملي، وحلمك عن كثير جرمي، إنما كان من خطئي وعمدي. أطمعني في أن أسألك ما لا أستوجبه منك، الذي رزقتني من رحمتك، وأريتني من قدرتك وعرفتني من إجابتك. خسرت عدوك آمنا وأسألك مستأنسا لا خائفا ولا وجلا، مدلا عليك فيما قصدت فيه إليك. فإن أبت عني أتبت بجهلي عليك، ولعل الذي أبت عني هو خير لي لعلمك بعاقبة الأمور. فلم أر مولى كريما أصبر على عبد اللئيم منك علي يا رب. إنك تدعوني فأغني عنك وتتحبب إلي فأتفقد إليك، وتتود إلي فلا أقبل منك. كأن لي تتولى عليك فلم يمنعك ذلك من الرحمة لي والإحسان إلي. فتتفضل علي بجودك وكرمك، فارحم عبدك الجاهل وجد عليه بفضل إحسانك. إنك جواد كريم. الحمد لله مالك الملك مجري الفلك مسخر الرياح فالق الأصباح ديان الدين رب العالمين. الحمد لله على علمه بعد علمه، والحمد لله على عفوه بعد قدرته، والحمد لله على طول أناته في غضبه وهو قادر على ما يريد. الحمد لله خالق الخلق باسط الرزق فالق الأصباح ذي الجلال والإكرام والفضل والإنعام، الذي بعد فلا يرى وقرب فشهد النجوى تبارك وتعالى. الحمد لله الذي ليس له منازع يعادله ولا شبيه يشاكله ولا زهير يعاضده. قهر بعزته الأعزاء وتواضع لعظمته عظماء، وبلغ بقدرته ما يشاء. الحمد لله الذي يجيبني حين أناديه ويصدر علي كل عورة وأنا أسيه، ويعظم النعمة علي فلا أجازيه. فكم من موهبة حنيئة قد أعطاني، وعزيمة مخافة قد كفاني، وبهجة مونغة قد أراني. فأثنى عليه حامدا واذكره مسبحا. الحمد لله الذي لا يهتك حجابه ولا يغلق بابه ولا يرد سائله ولا يخيب عامله. الحمد لله الذي يؤمن الخائفين وينجي الصالحين ويرفع المستضعفين ويزع المستكبرين ويهلك ملوكا ويستخلف آخرين. والحمد لله قاسم الجبارين مبير الظالمين مدرك الهاربين نكال الظالمين صريخ المستصرخين موضع حاجات الطالبين معتمد المؤمنين. الحمد لله الذي من خشيته ترعد السماء وسكانها وترجف الأرض وأمارها وتموج البحار ومن يسبح في غمراتها. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. الحمد لله الذي يخلق ولم يخلق ويرزق ولا يرزق ويطعم ولا يطعم ويميت الأحياء ويحيي الموتى وهو حي لا يموت بيده الخير وهو على كل شيء قدير. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعجل فرجهم. Brother Hussein, would you like to continue?
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد عبدك ورسولك وأمينك وصفيك وحبيبك وخيرتك من خلقك وحافظ سرك ومبلغ رسالاتك، أفضل وأحسن وأجمل وأكمل وأزكى وأنمى وأطيب وأطهر وأسنى وأكثر ما صليت وباركت وترحمت وتحننت وسلمت على أحد من عبادك وأنبيائك ورسلك وصفوتك وأهل الكرامة عليك من خلقك. اللهم وصل على علي أمير المؤمنين ووصي رسول رب العالمين، عبدك ووليك وأخي رسولك وحجتك على خلقك وآيتك الكبرى والنبأ العظيم. وصل على الصديقة الطاهرة فاطمة سيدة النساء العالمين. وصل على سبتاء الرحمة وإمامي الهدى الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة. وصل على أئمة المسلمين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والخلف الحادي المهدي، حججك على عبادك وأمنائك في بلادك صلاة كثيرة دائما. اللهم وصل على ولي أمرك القائم المؤمل والعدل المنتظر وهفه بملائكتك المقربين وأيده بروح القدس يا رب العالمين. اللهم اجعل حدائي إلى كتابك والقائم بدينك استخلفه في الأرض كما استخلفت الذين من قبله، مكن له دينه الذي ارتضيته له، أبدله من بعد خوفه أمنا يعبدك لا يشرك بك شيئا. اللهم أعزه وأعزز به وانصره وانتصر به، وانصره نصرا عزيزا وافتح له فتحا يسيرا واجعل له من لدنك سلطانا نصيرا. اللهم أظهر به دينك وسنة نبيك حتى لا يستخفي بشيء من الحق مخافة أحد من الخلق. اللهم إنا نرغب إليك في دولة كريمة تعز بها الإسلام وأهله وتذل بها النفاق وأهله وتجعلنا فيها من الدعاة إلى طاعتك والقادة إلى سبيلك وترزقنا بها كرامة الدنيا والآخرة. اللهم ما عرفتنا من الحق فحملناه وما خسرنا عنه فبلغناه. اللهم المم به شعاثنا
واشرب به سدعنا وارتق به فتقنا وكثر به قلتنا وعزز به ذلتنا واغن به عائلنا واغض به عن مغرمنا واجبر به فقرنا وسد به قلتنا ويسر به عسرنا وبيض به وجوهنا وفك به أسرنا وانجز به طلبتنا وانجز به مواعيدنا واستجب به دعوتنا واتنا به سؤلنا وبلغنا به من الدنيا والآخرة آمالنا واتنا به فوق رغبتنا يا خير المسؤولين وأوسع المعطين اشف به صدورنا واذهب به غيظ قلوبنا واهدنا به لما اختلف فيه من الحق بإذنك إنك تهدي من تشاء إلى صراط مستقيم وانصرنا به على عدوك وعدونا إله الحق آمين. اللهم إنا نشكو إليك فقد نبينا صلواتك عليه وآله وغيبة ولينا وكثرة عدونا وقلة عددنا وشدة الفتن بنا وتظاهر الزمان علينا فصل على محمد وآله وعنا على ذلك بفتح منك تعجله وبذر تكشفه ونصر تعزه وسلطان حق تزهره ورحمة منك تجللناها وعافية منك تلبسناها برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. اللهم أسألك وندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم العز الأجل الأكرم يا الله 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 يا رحمن يا رحيم. اللهم أدخل على أهل القبور السرور. اللهم أغن كل فقير. اللهم أشف كل جائع. اللهم اكسو كل عريان. اللهم اغز دين كل مدين. اللهم فرج عن كل مكروب. اللهم رد كل غريب. اللهم فك كل أسير. اللهم أصلح كل فاسد من أمور المسلمين. اللهم اشف كل مريض. اللهم اشف كل مريض. اللهم اشف كل مريض. اللهم سد فقرنا بغناك. اللهم غير سوء حالنا بحسن حالك. اللهم اغض عنا الدين واغننا من الفقر إنك على كل شيء قدير. Brothers and sisters, as we get closer and closer to iftar, inshallah, keep the brothers and sisters, all the friends and family, all the people who from early age teach us and taught us this deen, and all the ulama, all the Maulanas, all the sheikhs throughout these years, they came to our centers and gone, and they kept us in the way of Ahlul Bayt. We owe them to make dua for them, and inshallah ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep everybody safe and shafa for all the marizai Islam. Faraj Agha Imam Zaman for Mustarra Zaman, inshallah. In very soon we should, our eyes is lighted by the Zuhur of Agha Imam Zaman, and inshallah all the people who have difficulties and giriftari in their life, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will solve their issues. Keep our children safe, inshallah, and aghabatashum bikhair, inshallah, they all be successful and continue the path that started and Davy سرباز آقا امام زمان soldier for آقا. بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم. امن یجیب المضطر اذا دعا و یکشف السوء. 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 فرج آقا امام زمان، سلامتی آقا امام زمان، انشالله Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will keep him safe. امن یجیب المضطر اذا دعا و یکشف السوء. بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم. الهی عظم البلاء و برح الخفا و انکشف الغطاء و انقطع الرجاء و ضاقت الارض و منعت السماء و انت المستعان و الیک المشتکا و علیک المعول فی شدت و الرخاء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد أولي الأمر الذين فرضت علينا طاعتهم وعرفتنا بذلك منزلتهم ففرج عنا بحقهم فرجا عاجلا غريبا كلمح البصر أو هو أقرب يا محمد يا علي يا محمد. اكفياني فإنكما كافيان وانصراني فإنكما ناصران. يا مولانا يا صاحب الزمان الغوث 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 أدركني 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 الساعة الساعة الساعة. الأجل 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 يا أرحم الراحمين بحق محمد وآله الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Inshallah, remember all our marhumin. And also I want to say a special thanks to the teachers and people in our Islamic school who teach these small children, these brothers and small brothers and sisters. And every night one of them, they come and read, mashallah, the Quran. Inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I want to make a special prayer for them. Allah gives them tawfiq and keep them safe. And may they continue to teach our future generation the Quran and Ahkam al-Ahlul Bayt. And inshallah, Allah gives them a special blessing in this night and of Shab al-Jum'ah. And inshallah, Agha Imam Zaman, keep you all safe and sound. Brother Awali, you have announcements.
Yes, thank you, brother. Salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Reminder is just a reminder about the program starting for next 3 days at 6:30 p.m. and on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday will be starting at 6:15. Those 3 nights will be the Shahadat Majlis of Imam Ali alayhi salam. The main announcement is to remind about the donation. As I asked yesterday, that we need to raise about $10,000 during the Ramdhan, inshallah, to meet our expenses for the program that we do all year long. I have already sent the link. There are 3 different ways you can make donations. One is through PayPal, one through this online link, which is also on the website, and or you can mail a check, and those links and address being provided on the WhatsApp announcement. So please donate generously. As you remember, Shaykh Kulayni talked about charity yesterday in his first lecture. So please remember our expenses, and this center belongs to us, and to maintain it and to keep it running and have a speaker comes, and so we can benefit from the lectures, we need this amount. So please donate generously. Like I said, three way, either through the PayPal or the link on the website or in the text message in WhatsApp group, or you can also mail a check. And if somebody wants to give cash, they can give a check cash to the one of the board members while in-person programs, inshallah. That's all I have to say. So inshallah, uh, it's getting close to the iftar time. We'll see you guys tomorrow at 6:30, starting program with Brother Mustafa's Quran translation. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Walaikum salam. It's tonight we have Dua Kumail after iftar.
Inshallah, after iftar about 9:15, same time as before. 9:30. Let's make it 9:30 because it's
9:30 better, yeah.
inshallah.